Hi, this is Ramelekah's miniature painting, and I wanted to show you guys my miniature that I painted today. So this is an orc, and it is like a goblin. But I just want to share with you guys how I painted it to inspire you to paint too. It's a fun activity to do, and there's many different paints you can use, many different models, and there's a bunch of different things you could use too. So first of all, let's talk about the skin. So the skin, I use a green, a dark green, and then you use a lighter green after that to highlight it. Then you take another highlight, and then you can highlight it with an even lighter green. Now I had to mix the darkest green that I had with a lighter green, so that you will have, in some cases, have to mix. It's not bad to mix, okay? A tip on mixing: you use your worst brush you have to mix colors together. Now, so the next thing we did, I did the base. So the base is right down here, and so I wanted to. So I used a stone. It was called mountain stone. It's this grayish color. Then you can do washes. So I used a black wash. It's where you add black and water together. I used a black wash on the base on top of that mountain stone, so it makes it look like it was dirty. The next thing I used was I used another coat of that black wash. So I did 2 coats of black wash on the base. The next thing I did was I went up to the sword. It's hard to remember. I went up to the sword. So for the sword, what I did at the sword was I used a polished silver color, and then and a steel. It's like silvery with steel added. And then I used brown for rust. So it makes it kind of look rusty, and the whole point of the model looking dirty also is because it was just like in a fight or something, like all models normally are. And so it's a little rusty, so that's what I used. And then I mixed yellow and brown to make like an orangey color. So I used those 2 colors together, and then I really kind of like just tapped spots with it, and then you just kind of stroke it, but tap it quickly with the brush. So I did that on the sword. So the next thing I did was I did the bottom of the sword here. Bottom of the sword. So for the bottom of the sword, I used a brown called Harvest Brown, which is like a leathery color. And then on top of that, I mixed these 2 together. I used Harvest Brown, and then I used Leather Brown. So these are all paints from a little paint organization. So yeah, so I used that leather paint for that, and then I mixed those together, and then I painted it. Again, for mixing, I would probably suggest you use a brush that you really is kind of like bent up and stuff like that. Like, you don't use it much. It's not super special. Don't use your special brushes, because then the bristles will get a mess. So the next thing I did was I did the armor. So as you can see here, there's armor here, there's armor there, and there's armor on that arm and the 2 shoulders. So I started with the shield, and so I can move the model for you, but I used, as you can see there, I used like a leather brown, not a leather brown, a dark brown. It's called Harvest Brown, and I painted with that. Then I did a black wash, as I have explained for you, on top of it. Then I used silver on these like pokey spots. I used silver. And then I did a black wash over those silver pokey spots to make it look like he has used it in a fight. The next thing I did was I did the chains. Okay, so he has like chains as another part of his armor. So I did these chains here, these chains going through here, this little part there, and then you turn him around, and I did those chains, that chain, and those chains, and then this back little thing. So, yes, I did that as chains. So, yeah. So, for the chains, I used polished silver. And a touch of steel, the silver steel. So I mixed those together and used those. So, and then you just lightly use you need a good small brush for this armor, that, and that. And this. And later on we're going to talk about the shoes. But that you are going to need a very thin bristled brush. A very good brush, one that is not bent up and a mess. Okay? So the next thing so that I painted with that. The next thing I did was I did the shoes. So the shoes are right here. So the shoes were a little complicated. But what I did was I used the brown, Dark Harvest brown, and then in spots I used the leather brown as part of that, and then I added on a little bit of desert sand color. So these are all paints from Reaper's Miniatures, and it comes with miniatures, paintbrushes, and models. So as you can see, I have used a Dark Harvest brown with the leather brown, and then for the spikes as well, throughout this armor, this brown armor, you can see I have used the silver for the spikes. Okay, so those are silver spiked on both shoes. Okay, and last but not least, the eyes and teeth. So for the teeth, I used the desert sand color, so they're kind of hard to see. See? They're a little hard to see, but they're right there. And he has like wonky jonky teeth. So I used a desert sand color and then added a black wash to it to make them look dirty. And then for the eyes are the most complicated part to me. We would talk about, a couple more things we have to talk about for highlights on the skin. But other than that, I think we're almost done. So we used for the eyes, what you do is you use a black. I use a color called pure black. The next thing you do is you paint the whole eye dark black, or in my case, pure black. Then, with the smallest brush possible that you own, or you can go to the store for it, or anywhere you can get the brush, smallest brush you can find, and put the small little white dot in the middle of the eye. Okay? So, yes, the middle of the eye. So, it might be complicated. It might seem complicated. When I started painting these miniatures, I thought these are going to be so complicated. And now I have figured out, like, these are really pretty easy. They take you a good couple hours. This one took me about 3.5 hours to paint. but it will take you a while. That's the whole point of painting. Just like painting a wall, just like painting canvas. Walls are way much longer, but like just like painting those things too, okay? Okay, and the last but not least, the highlights. So the highlights, I used a light green mixed with the darkest green that I used on the skin. Then I put that on there in the spots that are lifted. You do not put it in the creases. You put it on the lifted spots on the model. And then you use a even brighter green and add a little bit of desert sand for the Reaper's miniatures. Desert sand added onto it. And then you put that on top of the places that you had put the other highlight before. Alright, so that is for this model today. And I will get back to you soon with some other models. You guys all have a great day, and I will see you later on Ramelekah's miniature painting.